Hi, this is Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style blog. Did you know that alterations are not a sign of failure? How can that be true? Many women in particular will think that if something does not fit them perfectly off the rack and that they might need an alteration, well, that there is something wrong with them, that they have failed in the art of shopping. In fact, when we think about it, we all have different bodies. And women in particular are much more varied in their body shapes than men. So we might have straighter shoulders, broader shoulders, narrower shoulders, more sloping shoulders. We might have a larger bust, a smaller bust, a medium-sized bust. We may have a short waist or a long waist, which might give us more of a tummy, putting the weight on through the tummy, or we might have weight on our hips and thighs. We might, God forbid, have a hip dip. Actually, I think pretty much everybody has a hip dip of some sort or other. We might have, bigger thighs, smaller thighs, fuller, bottoms, flatter bottoms. There's all sorts of things about our bodies that are not the same, which is why there's so many different body shapes, let alone the body proportions and all what I call the body variations. Those bits about like arms and bust and calves and thighs and tummies, all those bits of the body variations that can come on any different body shape. And so when we think about that, if we all expect to walk into the same generic mass market chain store that you'll find on any high street, pull out a pair of pants that they have made, size 8, 10, 12, whatever it might be, depending on your country and the sizing, whatever it is, but we will all find that different shapes, that pant doesn't suit us all because we're different shapes. And that where we hold our weight is different from each other. And how long our legs are different from each other. Our proportions are different. Our rise is different. There's so many things that goes into whether or not a garment is going to fit us or not. And it's absolutely not a sign of failure if something doesn't fit you, because it wasn't made for you. Now, if you went to a tailor and you had all your measurements taken and then they made something to fit you perfectly, well, that's what you could expect. You could expect to walk in and then they've made it to fit your exact dimensions, your proportions, your body shape. But when you're walking into a high street mass market store, they've not taken your measurements. And in fact, half the time, 3 things in that store that are the same size will be completely different in the way they fit. So you have to understand that needing an alteration, if you're going to buy from the high street, which most of us will, that you need to go and get alterations because they're just a part of life. That things will not fit you properly, so you need to have it taken in where it needs to be taken in, or let out where it needs to be let out, taken up if it's too long, lengthened if it's too short. So don't think that there is anything wrong with you or your body if you need an alteration. That's just the way of the world. It's the way of mass market. They're trying to fit the most people in to the fewest shapes of garments possible. So they will do things like cut sleeve holes very large because it fits a larger arm and a smaller arm. So you might find that the armhole is too big. You might find that the proportion here, and you might need to take things up from the shoulder. There's so many different ways. They cut things to be very generic. Really just to get them on people, not to necessarily flatter people. So do think about when you are looking at something, if it just needs a small alteration and everything else about it you love, get that alteration. It's a good investment in that piece of clothing because when it fits you really well, you will love it more and it will look that much better. So don't think that you are a failure if some garments don't suit you. And there are many of us who don't have a manufacturing standard body and in fact fit very little in the mass market. So this is one of those things that maybe if this is a problem, if you're finding that nothing ever fits you and that really frustrates you, then go out and have clothes made or learn to sew and make things for yourself, because then that issue will be resolved.